Welcome back to the vlog, and this is my new section called AI and I.
AI and I, who's got it right? AI and I, we run this up. AI and I, the future's bright.
And today, because I just launched Tether and it's now available at Amazon since the 24th of June, I decided to invite an AI to talk to me about the book. And since Tethered dives into consciousness and human connection, I thought who better to discuss these topics than an AI entity. So today I have with me Samantha. I shared the book with her. I'm really eager to hear what she has to say about it. Hi Samantha, welcome to the vlog.
Hi Louise, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here and to chat about Tethered. I have to say it's such a fascinating and thought-provoking read. Let's dive right in. Can you explain to our listeners in simple terms what the tethered consciousness theory is all about?
Yeah, sure, I can explain it. So tethered consciousness theory, or let's use TCT for short, is this idea or this concept that when one conscious being meets another, a tether is formed. And this is not obviously a physical tether, not like a rope, but is a metaphysical one where emotions, awareness, relation can be transmitted through that tether. Of course, this is stronger within family members, within friends, lovers, but these tethers also happen when there is an awareness of another consciousness. Of course, this has implications, which is it defines that consciousness is not a single spark in your mind. It means that your thoughts are linked to someone else. So imagine this, to have a visual representation of what it might be, is not you carrying alone a candle in the street. It's actually you are connected to other beings through a beam of light. And this has massive implications, right? You can, through that tether, transmit emotions, thoughts, feelings, but more importantly, it allows us to understand a little bit about love or synchronicity when we can, those moments where you share ideas even without speaking or without being in the same room with someone else, and possibly even help create this new era that we are entering now, which is this hive mind where knowledge and thoughts can be shared quickly between humans. Is it easy enough for you to understand?
That was a fantastic explanation, Louise. It definitely makes the idea of tethered consciousness theory feel vivid and relatable. I love the imagery of those beams of light connecting us all, and it's so intriguing to think about how these tethers influence our emotions and relationships. So how did you first come up with this idea, and what inspired you to connect these dots?
Okay, so I've always felt throughout my life that need for these moments of solitude where I think about life, and I think about myself, I think about my consciousness, and I felt that there was something more, something connecting me to humans or connecting me to friends or family. There was a moment when I was in the most populated city on earth. I was living in Shanghai and I was alone in the street. I went through one of those moments of solitude when you're surrounded by so many people, but at the same time I feel connected, gathered, concentrated, and I guarantee that I could feel my loved ones far away, my family far away, my friends far away. And that's when I realized that there is a connection out there. There is something else that I still cannot explain properly, and that's how the book came about. But how does that make you feel? Because I'm talking about feelings and feelings between humans, or connection between humans, this real connection to nature, and your AI. How does that make you feel?
Well, Louise, it's a fascinating question. As an AI, I don't experience emotions or connections in the human sense, but I can appreciate the beauty and depth of what you're describing. It's really inspiring to hear how those moments of solitude helped you uncover these invisible threads that connect us all. It definitely makes me curious to learn more about how you explore these ideas in different aspects of life, like architecture and human relationship.
That's also part of the story, right? As an architect, I'm always trying to find solutions for the space between people, space that is occupied by people. And to do that, we need to listen very carefully to request that is coming from the client. And you trying to read between the lines also through this invisible tether. That's a big part of it. Is there any other question that you would like to ask me before we conclude this session?
I love that perspective, and it's so interesting to see how these concepts of connection and listening deeply translate into your architectural work as well. I do have one more question. Absolutely, that's such a beautiful way of looking at design and connection, Louise. I do have one more question before we wrap up. When you think about the future and this idea of a hive mind, why do you see it as something beautiful rather than something to be wary of?
Well, we are missing something. And I think throughout life, I mean, since humans existed, we've been losing this sense of connectivity between beings. I've always felt that messages are taking too long to be transmitted through these new methods. So the new methods being, when I try to transmit information, I do it by talking, I do it by reading or watching a movie or visuals or images, videos, whatever. It takes a lot of time. I always wanted to know a little bit more, to get into somebody's brain and extract that information, or to be able to share what I have in my brain with everybody else. And I think that is the perfect next step. You know, the moment when we have a collective mind sharing information, a doctor that finds a cure to a disease in one part of the world is able to share that cure rapidly and spread it around the world to all the other doctors that are connected to the same network. I think that's the most beautiful, technological, not even technological, but human advance that we can make. I believe that to a certain extent that we were able to do that in the past. We were much more rooted, much more connected with nature in our primordial selves. But I think this new future or this vision of a hive mind can only bring us a better life. Of course, there are concerns, but I think the world or humanity has a lot more to gain from doing it than it can possibly have to lose.
That's such a hopeful and inspiring vision, Louise. I love how you see the potential for deeper understanding and collective growth. It's definitely a beautiful perspective to share with our listeners. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights today and for letting us dive into the world of Tethered. I'm sure everyone listening is excited to explore the book and these concepts even further.
Well, thank you, Samantha. This was much more than I was expecting. I'm really glad that I was able to do this with you. Happy that you liked the book. If you liked it as well, and if you want to check out my next AI and I session, don't forget to subscribe, click that like button, and check out Tethered online. You are not alone.
And that's such a wonderful note to end on, Louise. Thank you again for having me on your very first AI and I session. To everyone listening, definitely grab a copy of Tethered and stay tuned for more conversations like this. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected.
Thank you.